Hope you guys are great. Excited to be 5 days away from the opening game of our 24-25 season. Guys been working their tails off all summer, and then again all preseason we've been practicing. It seems like forever. That's how it works in college basketball. It's kind of the opposite of the NBA. We practice for 6 weeks before the first game, so we're close. Looking forward to Monday, season opener, first game for some of our new guys, first game in several months for all the rest of us, and a chance to reunite with our fans. Just want to reinforce, we never ever take our fans for granted. Love the connection between the fans and the team, the players, and everyone that supports our team. It's a special time here. We've sold more season tickets than have ever been sold before, and the season hasn't even started yet. We've already sold out 3 games for this year. The record is 5. We're going for 6 or more, and we don't play in a small building. So to sell that place out is an undertaking, and it shows what our fans are about and how much excitement they have about this team. The team is absolutely still a work in progress, like every team. I think anytime you lose 2 Titans like we lost in Oso and Tyler, there's some growth to be made in a variety of areas to replace those guys. That doesn't happen from one person. That's a team-wide endeavor, and we've been working really, really hard all summer, all fall, to get to the point where we're ready to take the floor on game night. That being said, the first game is not going to be our final product, and this is absolutely going to be a team like previous teams that we've had here that is going to rely on getting better and better and growing over the course of the season. We want to grow as much as anyone in the country, if not more. One of our 3 core values, growth. It's how we do things. We believe in homegrown players, Marquette-made guys, and these guys have really poured their heart and soul into that so far. Looking forward to getting going on Monday.
Last time we talked to you, a couple guys were dealing with some pretty minor injuries. Did everyone make it through the preseason healthy?
We're still dealing with some different things. Demarius has a toe injury that he sustained in our Oklahoma game, which honestly I don't have the exact results from. They're doing some different testing, but he's unlikely he'll play on Monday, and he may be out for a while. He had just kind of worked his way back. Last time we talked, he was on the shelf with a groin, and he had gotten back into practice and was doing great, but hurt his toe in our scrimmage last Saturday. And other than that, we've got some guys dealing with some different bumps and bruises associated with play, but hopeful that we'll have everyone ready to play on Monday.
Through those 2 scrimmages in the preseason, what new things did you learn about your team?
Well, it's been a great journey so far. We've learned a lot about different combinations out on the floor because, again, when you take Tyler and Oso away, most of our combinations last year included one or both of them. We did play 1 game at Creighton without both of them, and we obviously had that 6-game stretch when T was out. But, those guys were, central to what we did and the different combinations we had. So a big part of this preseason has been, okay, how does the backcourt look when it's Cam and Stevie and Chase? How do those 3 look with Ben and Jop? How does this combination look when you have Caden and Jop out there together with Ben? And so we've learned a lot just about how different guys work together offensively and defensively. This is going to be a team that on the defensive end, we have to help each other more than ever, but we also have probably more athleticism and length than we've had, so that's an advantage that we need to press.
Some of those lineups and players you just mentioned, they're a lot bigger than maybe some of the other lineups you used last year when you had Cam, Stevie, and Tyler. Do you expect to be running some taller, bigger lineups this season?
Yeah, I mean, the lineups are based on a lot of different things. Size is one factor and component, but those were 3 pretty good guards that it made sense to have out there a lot last year. And I would take the smallest lineup in the country if it made us efficient on the offensive end and disruptive and vicious on the defensive end. That being said, size sometimes does matter out there on the court, particularly as it relates to rebounding, as it relates to play in the paint. And so we're absolutely going to use the bigger guys, the bigger half of our roster at our disposal. Jop has been a guy that I think has gotten more and more comfortable making decisions with the ball in his hands. So he certainly can play as your second biggest guy or your third biggest guy, or maybe in a pinch if you needed him to, he could even play shooting guard. Because for us, 1 through 4 are interchangeable on the offensive end. It more comes down to who you're defending from the other team. Most teams in 2024 are playing 4 perimeter guys, but there's still some teams that play 2 bigs. And, when we see those teams, it's important that we use our advantages with our lineups to counteract what they do.
Go ahead.
Great.
With your team, like you said, being a self-described work in progress, is there anything or anyone in particular that you lean on for the first couple of weeks until this team finds its identity?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's something that a lot of teams have to do early in the year as you're finding yourself as a unit. Going back to our first year here, Daryl Morcell was huge for us in our first handful of games because the rest of our guys were even, just figuring out, can I play at this level? How does that work? Even Justin Lewis, who ended up having a first-team all-conference season, it took him some time to figure that out as a sophomore. So it's a great point, and the answer would be our older guys. Cam Jones, first and foremost, David Joplin, Stevie Mitchell. Chase Ross has been terrific all fall. He's been arguably the best player on the team since practices started. I think Cameron Jop might argue that. Those guys have been terrific. Those guys have scored more points than Chase. But Chase, has, as an all-around player, defensive end, offensive end, handling the ball, passing the ball, being a multiplier for his teammates has been terrific. So those are the guys certainly that we're going to need to lean on early as the younger half of our roster figures things out.
You mentioned the offensive jump from Chase. Looking at the rest of your roster, just given how it's tooled up and your emphasis on development, guys like Trey, guys like Zayd, they're going to step up offensively as well throughout the last couple of months.
Guys are making progress. It's a great point. The way we do things here, a guy who averages 2 points a game or 5 points a game or 7 points a game, we're counting on him to do this year what maybe one of our conference contemporaries is counting on a guy who averaged 16 points a game somewhere else to do. That's just, it's kind of 2 different ways to do it. Not that one is right or one is wrong, but it's a fact. Zay Lowry averaged 2 points a game last year, and he's going to have a critical role on our team. So what does that mean? That means we better have been working our tail off in the last several months since March 29th to help him get better. And by the way, he plays the starring role in that growth and that success. And then we better continue working. March 4th is our first game. November 4th is our first game. So the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's one game. And then from there, some teams will stay the same, some teams will get better, some players will get better, and some teams and players will get worse. And I think most fans and media would say, well, everyone should get better. It's just common sense. You should grow and improve. Well, then why doesn't that happen? Some people regress. Some people get distracted. Some people, maybe lose confidence. And so for us, our way is to combine relationships, growth, and victory to help each other be our best.
With Ben at the 5 and Zay playing more, and with the new guys when they're ready, it seems like this has the potential to be like a better shooting team. How much do you think you will lean into that aspect?
Well, this is definitely a team that has shooting options 1 through 5, and that's just different than what we've had our first 3 years here. And so it gives us an opportunity to play a little bit differently on offense, where if there is a big guy guarding Ben, or even Royce or Caden, if they're at those spots and those guys are a threat to make shots, then we can pull them away from the basket and maybe make the defense stretch the floor a little bit, which allows us to attack the paint. Losing Tyler and Oso, those guys were our two best paint touch producers on our team. They did a great job getting into the lane, obviously in different ways. And so what we don't want to do is just become this team that bombs up 53s a game and never touches the paint. As you know, the best type of threes are after you've gotten penetration and then kicked it out and a guy's wide open stepping in from three. Those are the threes that you see the Boston Celtics, making by the boatload right now in the NBA. So we want ball movement, we want paint touches, but certainly we want to utilize the fact that every guy in our lineup is a threat to make threes. And with Ben starting at that, we call trigger spot. Guys don't like to be called fives anymore. At the 5 spot, that certainly gives us a real threat, whether it's pick and pop or even just him spacing the floor.
I noticed, people have asked about the couple of new awards you have, like the Drew Holiday and the Ant-Man. They might seem self-explanatory, but can you just explain, for the record, what those awards mean?
Yeah, I mean, part of culture is promoting and encouraging what you want, reinforcing it when the guys do it. And so we've tried to do that over the years with deflections, offensive rebounding, some of the EGBs. And so we just added to that. So Drew Holiday, in my mind, is as good as there is at defeating screens. In other words, you try to set a screen on me, and I say, no, you're not screening me. I'm getting over this. I'm getting under it. I'm getting around it. But you're not screening me. And so we keep track of the percentage of screens that guys defeat, and whoever defeats the most in the preseason gets the Drew Holiday Award for the week. And by the time we get to games, starting on Monday, if we win the game, awards go to winners. Then whoever defeats the highest percentage of screens will get the Drew Holiday Award. Ant-Man Award is for transition, most vicious play in transition. Chase has dominated the award. This was the first week, actually, that somebody else won the award. Al Amadou got it. But Chase has been terrific, just flying at the basket. And that award goes to an offensive or a defensive play. Let's see. We also are given an award for a multiplier of the week, or again, once we start games, a multiplier of the game. And that one is for whoever has the biggest differential between the offensive points per possession when they were in the game and their defensive points per possession when they were in the game. Basically, your plus minus, if you will, because we're making a huge deal out of the fact that bottom line is on the offensive end, when you're in the game, you're evaluated by does Marquette score? And then on the defensive end, when you're in the game, you're evaluated by are we able to keep the other team from scoring?
You mentioned season ticket sales being at an all-time high, 3 sellouts already, and I'm sure that's exhilarating to see taking the program to the next level. Is there any pressure that accompanies all that excitement, though, to live up to those expectations that fans are now setting for your team?
I think the season ticket sales, the 3 sellouts already before we've even started the season, that's more an indication of the excitement that people have for Marquette basketball. I think the appreciation that our fans have for a guy like Stevie Mitchell, a guy like Cam Jones. We are an old school team. We're a team that you would look at from 20, 30 years ago where guys came in here, they developed here, they became juniors and seniors here, and hopefully become all-conference, even all-American players here over the course of that process. You mentioned pressure. Yeah, I'm in the camp that that's a privilege. You know, in college basketball last week, we lost an absolute shining star, a great coach from South Florida, Amir Abdul-Rahim. And Amir was a guy that absolutely poured into his team and focused a lot less on what was on the outside. It was just about making the guys around him better. So, you know, thinking about him in the last several days, surrounding maybe topics like that, man, we're grateful for this opportunity that we all have to help these guys grow every day. And the fact of the matter is, and we went to the Roman Coliseum a little over a year ago, there's the gladiators, the guys that are actually in the fight, the ones that are on the ground, the ones that are trying to fight for those stops and those scores, and then there's everyone else in the crowd. And those are 2 different people, and you know, you get to choose which one of those you are. If you're 18 to 22 years old and you're good enough to play at this level, our guys have chosen to be gladiators, and we're excited to jump into the time of year where we get to put that to the test.
Oh, we always have to ask about Sean's recovery. How's that going?
It's going well. I mean, he was down there today working against live defense, and then he was going on defense, chasing over the top of screens, contesting shots. He's not to the point where he's playing 5-on-5. He's still, most of what we're doing is still relatively scripted. But, man, he's gaining strength. His attitude's been great. I would say between him and Trey Norman, they've had the best voices on our team throughout the preseason in terms of impacting their teammates as multipliers with their leadership. So Sean's the best, man. He's a guy that, has turned into a favorite of mine just because of who he is as a person, and you root for him. So you want him to be able to come back as soon as he possibly can and go out there and experience the success in basketball that he's used to experiencing. But at the same time, you can't rush that process. So, no, he won't be out there on Monday in our first game. But we're optimistic and hopeful that he will be out there soon.
One more?
I know this summer you went to Alabama's football practice, talked to a lot of different coaches in different sports. What are some of the stuff you've learned that you've begun to implement and want to implement?
Well, football's way ahead. Those guys, they have such larger operations, and they're in charge of so many more people that I think anytime you can learn from someone that is dealing with more complexity than you are, it can help you in what you're doing. So I went to spend a day with Dan Quinn with the Washington Commanders, and then, as you mentioned, was able to go down and spend a day with Alabama football. Those guys were nice enough to let me in, let me sit in on some of their meetings, be a fly on the wall, go to practice, and then pick their brains on how they go about things. I learned a lot. Probably don't have time to tell you everything I learned. I got pages and pages of notes. Biggest thing I took from DQ is his absolutely relentless pursuit of helping the guys around him grow, and then making sure that everybody knows that he's part of that equation too, in terms of him having to grow as well. So he's not, up here in some tower, telling people what to do. He's right there in it with the guys. I remember I was there in May, and it's like the optional practices or whatever, and every single player was there. And I thought to myself, well, that's a good start. That's pretty impressive. These guys don't have to be here, and they are here. I think that's a testament to he's the type of guy you want to be around. And I think more and more in this world, certainly in coaching, but also in a lot of other walks of life, you better be likable to the people that you're trying to lead, in addition to holding them accountable, in addition to giving great direction, in addition to certain other qualities. But they better feel a certain way about you, especially if you're trying to go do something hard. Alabama was awesome. I followed their football program for years and years. Obviously a regime change, and I did get a chance to meet Coach Saban and spend a little bit of time with him, but just learning. The best part, honestly, was sitting in on some of their position group rooms. So every position group has a room, and each room has their own little subculture. And that coach, even though he's technically an assistant coach, is the head coach of that room. And so I took that and I came back and I really tried to challenge our guys, our staff, to say, hey, man, these guys are on top of their rooms. I mean, they are so well thought out. The way that they quiz those guys and the rapid responses from the players, the ownership that they put on those guys is pretty impressive. Obviously, Alabama being a championship caliber program. But that was pretty cool. And, don't forget, we went to the Packers a little over a year ago, so I don't want to exclude them. Learned a ton from those guys as well. And one of the cool things has been, once you go watch someone practice, whether any of those three teams, you automatically become a huge fan of them. So it's great to see the Packers off to the awesome start they've had. DQ winning the game on that Hail Mary. That was awesome. His celebration was the best, just seeing that. Because that's just, you see coaches play it cool after wins, and you see coaches just lose their mind and celebrate. And I can let you guys in a secret on what the difference is. The difference is when they lose their mind, it's because for a minute there they were expecting to lose. Like it wasn't looking good. And then it flipped. When they play it cool, they kind of knew they were going to win by 11. Yeah, okay, I can kind of feel this coming. But that's a ton of fun watching coaches and players have that type of celebration.
That's it. Thanks.
See you guys Monday.